Do the trashy pulp novels of the world have anything to offer? Are bestsellers all they're cracked up to be? Here at Terrible Book Club, we explore whether you really can judge a book by its cover, or its ridiculous synopsis. You ever passed a book and thought, ugh, who's reading this? We probably are.
Club. I am a kind of sick Paris, and this is Chris.
A healthy Chris this time.
Yeah.
Usually a healthy Chris.
Yeah, so this time we read Sleeping with the Fishes by Janice Davidson, not to be confused with the other more famous book and movie called Sleeping with the Fishes, apparently.
There is? What?
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
Yeah, there's another book called Sleeping with the Fishes that was made into a movie, but it bears no resemblance to this book. I found that out when I was just like Googling it, trying to find out if anybody had talked about it, looking at Amazon reviews. Yeah, and I found out that there's another more famous book that got turned into a movie. Is it
also a mermaid romance based story?
No, I don't think so. It seemed like just a book about random women. Maybe there was romance in it, but I don't know. Honestly, I didn't care that much.
The title for this one is kind of on the... You know what? It's not really on the nose, which I'm going to bring up later, I guess. Because, all right, so the central idea of this book is mermaids are real things, and there's lots of... Not a lot of them, I guess, actually, but they're around, and some of them pass as humans or something because they can shift back and forth.
Yeah, So I'm just going to give some specifics. So apparently there's only 1 million merfolk, excuse me.
Yeah, come on.
In the world in this book. And the main character is Frederica Bim. She goes by Fred.
Yeah, I have a problem with some of the names in this book.
Yeah, anyway, I'm just going to give them a basic rundown. So Fred works at the New England Aquarium.
Yep.
I don't know.
A mermaid would, a mermaid.
She's the person that feeds the fish in the giant ocean tank, which they mistakenly call Main 1 throughout the book. I have no idea why they don't just call it the giant ocean tank or GOT.
Is that the official name?
Yeah, it's called the giant ocean tank.
I have been to the aquarium a bunch of times, but I don't memorize what each one thing is called.
Sure, but it's pretty readily available knowledge. It's on the internet.
Yeah,
so
this book obviously takes place in Boston, which we have knowledge of.
Well, yeah. But Chris has lived in Boston his whole life. I'm from Massachusetts, but I lived in Boston for 10 years. So we both, and I still work in Boston, and I have some intimate knowledge of the New England Aquarium for a reason I will not disclose.
Yeah, we have connections. We have buddies everywhere.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that work there.
So yeah, you might have some insider knowledge on what's correct and what's not in terms of this very specific setting. But it seems like there was an attempt made for it to be researched, or maybe at one time this author was indeed in Boston once, maybe. Yeah,
she said that she had her wedding reception at the aquarium, but she said it was a long time ago.
All right, you can do that?
Yeah, the aquarium has a huge events department. There are many, many, many events all year long. It actually helps fund the place. So.
Oh yeah, I guess I'd imagine. But how specific how small can I just rent out an event that's just me hanging out over there? If I have enough money.
Yeah, if you have tens of thousands of dollars, sure. But
okay,
usually
that sounds right. Sure.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive, but
I didn't know that people who's I want to get married in the aquarium.
Dude, so many people get married there. They have their wedding receptions, they get married, or big businesses have a lot of like employee events there. Yeah.
Is it also like a mermaid thing? Like to be these like okay. No. I don't know, man. Like apparently mermaids are a popular subject for like that might be the next vampire thing.
Right. So this book is written by a woman who, and I say book loosely, it's basically just like a really short story with large font and a lot of space in between all the lines.
Yeah, it was a pretty quick read once you can like sit down and actually get through, which actually took me some time because I was I was fairly disinterested in the premise from the get-go. Not that there's been worse books that we've read for certain with worse premises or whatever, and that are less competently written. And apparently, this is like a New York bestseller or something, a New York Times bestseller.
Well, no, not the book, but the author is a New York Times bestselling author.
Okay. Do you know which of her books was actually on that list?
I think her like zombie or vampire series.
Yeah, she has something called like Undead and Blank. Is sort of the.
And from what I can gather, that those books are written like it's basically just the same fucking story over and over again with like a different paranormal creature. She has like a werewolf series and this mermaid series and a vampire series, and that I don't know how it's so popular. I've never heard of it before. It must just fit into like a really specific niche or something on the New York Times bestseller list. I'm not certain.
I guess if you have enough of a niche carved out for yourself that you're well known for it, more people will come to you after a while. Although like I said, I didn't really read anything in here that was super groundbreaking beyond what anyone else that has minor competency in writing wouldn't be able to do. So I'm not sure why she got to be the one on the New York Times bestseller list. Maybe just really good marketing and like a PR team or something like that. Which
I don't know. I mean, even she says she has no idea like how it became so popular. So
what I'm interested in also is I remember when I had the copy of the book that we both read that on the front cover it says never before published.
Yeah, which is bizarre, and I have
it's a
no
mystifying thing to put on the front cover of a book. Because, I mean, I don't think this is her first book that she published.
No. This was published in, like, 2006, I think. Let me double-check that. And by looking in the front cover, I think it was 2006. So, yeah, this book is 11 years old.
Sure, but then I guess what remains is like, they mean that this story has been never before published, and that goes for plenty of books, right? Like,
yeah, I don't. Yeah, I feel the same way. It's like
you don't really
obviously, I don't know.
You don't really get a second printing of something unless like it. And then why would you want to brag about this being the first edition? Because like that's I guess that's not that. I guess it's a little hard. It's a weird thing to put up there. They don't mean that she has not been a published author before.
Right.
They don't. It's a weird thing to boast about. Like no one ever gave a shit until just now. Check it out.
Yeah,
this one must be really great.
It's pretty weird. I mean, I think that the funny thing is that she's like, thanks to my husband for doing all this research. And she lists these websites that she used. And none of the websites are the New England Aquarium's website, which I think is hilarious.
Are they websites talking about the aquarium, but it's not the aquarium? Is it like Boston? Get to know Boston better?
No, okay, it's stuff about marine biology, which is strange because that never comes up at all.
There's never any scientific anything to explain away anything in this book. In fact, like the whole mermaid transformation is kind of like done the same way. I like when we read that one in Alpha Purr's book, it's like it just kind of works, like don't think about it. It's just like, dude, come on. It's like their legs fuse together in water if they so choose to do that or something. Yeah,
like once their bodies hit, they have to be nude, obviously. I mean, I guess that goes without saying.
Yeah. You don't want to fuse the genes in there.
Yeah. I guess it's exactly as you described. It's pretty stupid. Like, if their bodies touch water, they can fuse their legs and grow a tail over. So basically, just the lower portions of their bodies completely transform.
For reason, it's just they don't really give any reason as to why mer people would need this ability to transform or have it. They just do, and it works like that. And every other merfolk that pops up in the story, just has that ability. Even though some merfolk in the story are like, I don't ever want anything to do with the surface.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, the idea of a mer person makes no fucking sense.
Well, yeah, of course, but you know.
But you know.
At least some people try to, like, oh, it was descended from when thousands of years ago a person fucked an octopus. I don't know, like.
Yeah, I kind of wish she had given any reason for this happening, and she doesn't even attempt to explain how they can breathe air and water. I mean, there are animals that are amphibians, but
yeah, I mean, well, the human mermaid crossing thing kind of threw me for a loop even at the start of the book, because the start of the book is Fred walking in on her parents doing it. Like, that's just the opener that she decided to go with.
Except it makes no sense because she's 29 Fred is 29 years old.
Yeah, she's like old enough.
And yet the whole thing goes down as though she's like 7 or 12 and walked in on her parents, because it's just a bunch of like, oh my god, ew, I can't believe my parents have sex. Like, dude, you're 29. Get over it.
I mean, that's more like 15 that would maybe have that kind of reaction. A 7-year-old might just be like, whoa, you wrestling or something? And you could just be like, yeah, totally. And then, you know, let that slide. But
I mean, I guess that's true, yeah.
Yeah, she does have like a weirdly combative and aggressive reaction to not only this, but like a lot of things in the story in general.
The protagonist just kind of is shitty. Like, I don't see why anyone would sympathize or empathize with the character. I don't see what's attractive about the protagonist. It just seems like she's cool because she's a mermaid and she's a PhD holding biologist. Like, suck it. Like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like,
really dumb.
I guess it's supposed to be like she's kind of written as if she's kind of witty or sarcastic and like has a lot of comebacks.
But she's just a bitch. She's just an antisocial bitch.
In the end, she's just really kind of mean and like derisive of people.
Yeah, I actually want to very judgmental too. Like, super judgmental.
Yeah,
sucks.
First let me get through the point I wanted to make about the opening scene with her walking in on her parents. It's her adoptive parents, or at least her mom. No, it's like her mom and her stepdad.
Right, so...
Because her mom actually did have sex with a merf person at some point. But at the beginning of the book, I wasn't sure how anything worked. So for like a couple of pages, and you corrected me on this eventually, but for a couple of pages, I wasn't sure whether her dad was a fish or not.
I honestly don't know how you were confused about that. There's nothing that makes you think that. I think you were just assuming that because of the subject matter of the book.
When Fred walks in on them, she physically grabs her dad and like throws him across the room.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, like, I don't know if mermaids have super strength or not. She's a small lady, and that if he was a human, he'd be pretty large of a dude to literally toss over a couch.
Chris, did you read this book at all?
I did.
Okay, because
that's what happens.
The book does explain that mermaids have super strength, and...
No, but not in the beginning of the book.
No, not in the beginning, that's true.
So it wasn't established yet, and there was I think there was plausible deniability that Fred's mom was banging a fish.
No, I don't think there's any. I think I have no idea what you're talking about. I think it's very obvious that they're both humans.
All right, well, you know...
Sorry. But anyway...
I am kind of disappointed, actually, in something related to that with this book, if I'm being honest, but we can continue a little bit further, because, the opening scene is, like I said, Fred walks in on her parents, and then it's kind of like for no reason. I guess it's just to introduce everyone, and then like a scene later, this dude comes out of nowhere to find Fred at her parents' place.
Yeah, so basically the opening scene is dumb, and then it moves into dumber territory where Fred's at work and meets this super hot scientist and this really annoying intern.
Yeah, the characters' names here would be Thomas Pearson for the hot scientist and Madison for the intern, and I have things to say about both of them.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm terrible with remembering their names, but
that's what I'm here for. But continue.
Yeah, and then Fred gets a phone call at work from her mom, and her mom's just like, you need to get here right away. There's a man who really needs to talk to you. Ugh. And Fred goes to her mom's house, breaks the door in.
Yeah, she just like fucking kicks it in. Just no nonsense.
Like breaks the glass, ruins everything because she's gonna fight this guy who's in her mom's house. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why your first reaction wouldn't be, hey, maybe I should call the police if someone's threatening my mom. Like, why would you destroy your mom's door?
Yeah, mom's gonna have to pay for that probably.
Yeah, and then, well, they're very wealthy anyway, right? So whatever.
I don't really remember if that was the case or not.
Yeah. Her parents are super wealthy. Her dad invented something stupid. I can't remember what it was.
It was just kind of a toss away reason.
Her dad's father, so her grandfather, invented something really stupid, and they've just been riding the coattails of the royalties.
That's the American dream, right? Like,
right.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, just live on the backs of what your parents did, I guess.
It works.
That's terrible. Anyway.
Proven true.
And her mom is just kind of this, like, flowery hippie jerk off that just also lives off the royalties of her husband, so whatever. Sorry, I just don't like anybody in this book.
There's
these
really
people
no
suck.
one in this book that's like I enjoyed or like liked as a human. They don't really talk the way people do all the time. Like, it's very bantery, but not in a human. I can't remember specific examples because it's been actually a couple of weeks since I read the book, but I do remember a couple of times as I was reading being like, that doesn't sound like a thing people would say. Yeah,
I feel the same way. I feel like this author writes dialogue as though she's never heard two people just have a conversation.
Maybe she hasn't heard people have like actual funny like actually witty conversations.
I don't know. I can read you a sample though.
Sure, hit me with it. Like I said, it kind of comes off in this trying to be bantery in like your funny screenplay, romantic comedy type thing that just kind of, it's funny sometimes in like a chuckly kind of way. I'll admit that there was one or two parts where I was like, haha, but it was funnier than some other books that have tried to be funny are.
I think it was just bad and only funny in like a dad joke kind of way where you're laughing not at the joke, but at the person who dared to make this terrible joke.
I guess, kind of.
Okay, I'm just going to read an example. So, Fred, stop it. You too, Sam. Mrs. Bim helped her husband to his feet and hustled him out of the living room. Then she turned on her daughter. Frederica. Mom, put yourself in my thins. Frederica Shea Bim. Mom, he was fucking my mother. He's a motherfucker. What would you have done? Like, come on.
Yeah,
it's fucking terrible. Like, I can't believe I just had to read that.
It's real, like, bottom of the barrel jokes that, like, if you have a idea of what is funny, like, I guess if you don't consume a lot of other stuff that's more funny regularly, that would be like, oh, it's so clever. Like, but the whole book is kind of that way.
Yeah.
It's trying very hard to be sort of an irreverent, like, oh, everyone's sarcastic and catty and whipping at each other.
And I also just hate how she typifies people that are into marine science as like only two, like you can only be these two things. You can be someone who always loved dolphins or someone who thought mermaids were real. Like, those are the only two kinds of people that become marine biologists, and that's just not true. I mean,
and that's actually, it goes back to those two characters we mentioned, Dr. Pearson, the hot marine biologist type who just apparently like is really into mermaids. I wonder where this goes. And then
right.
Madison, the intern, is just the dolphin lover, and like she's supposed to be kind of horrible because her parents are rich and they bought her the job at the aquarium through donations or something.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna talk a little bit about why both of these characters make no sense in the context of marine biology and aquariums and marine science. So
go ahead. I have a lot to say about why they make no sense in other contexts.
Yeah, right. So in short, the Madison, the intern, they talk about how she's like running around the aquarium as an intern in heels and also like just running around to like different departments, and that's not how internships at the New England Aquarium work. I've known several people that have interned and volunteered there, and first of all, you just don't wear heels at the New England Aquarium unless you...
Is that like a rule? Is like, do you know if that's a rule or not?
It's not a rule. Well, in certain positions, it is a rule. Like if you're working with the animals behind the scenes, you can't wear heels. There's just, you can't. Like, it's physical labor. You're working in enclosed spaces with wet surfaces, things all over the floor. Like, it just... It doesn't make any sense.
I think the author was trying to get across like a lot of these women, because there's like another female doctor that comes in later too, Dr. Barbara, I think is her name, and like they all she gives them all this sort of like in a lab coat, in heels, authoritative sort of vibe in general.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something right now. There's no one that wears a lab coat at the New England Aquarium, and no one wears heels unless they work in like sales behind a desk all day.
Okay, well, like, but how is she supposed to get the sexy vibe across, right? Because it's sleeping with the fishes.
I'm just I don't know. I'm just annoyed because she starts off the book saying like, "Oh, I did all this research," and yet clearly she did fucking nothing, because nothing makes any sense.
Do you expect her to like camp in the New England Aquarium and like ask people what they wear to work and stuff? Like,
honestly, if you just go there, if you just visit, you can see that nobody wears those things.
If she had her wedding reception there, I guess she could have seen that, but maybe she thought there was like science people in the back that she didn't see.
We do like
yeah, because there is research done there,
right? I mean, the New England Aquarium is primarily a research and conservation facility, but even the people that do those things, as far as I know, do not dress in lab coats and heels. That's just not a thing.
I don't know. Maybe they should start doing it. Really, bring out
like people that don't even work in the labs don't wear heels, because it's just not smart, because there's wet stuff tracked everywhere, and also
that would be my first concern as well.
Yeah, most people don't just like sit at a desk and do nothing all day. So anyway, and also Thomas Pearson, the super hot biologist, he's supposed to be a, quote, water fellow, who is someone that just floats around different aquariums working on different projects.
Good day,
and like,
chop I'm a water fellow, I die.
Yeah, and like, so it's partially accurate. There are visiting researchers, but they're not called water fellows, to my knowledge. My knowledge. Like, I could be crazy and wrong. Maybe the information I've gotten from my secret sources is wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's not a thing.
Maybe that was her original name for merfolk.
Yeah, maybe, and she was like, "Oh, that's too good to throw away."
Yeah, she needed to use it somewhere. So
right, so
here you go, hunky Dr. Pearson, who honestly throughout the whole book is kind of just a useless character. I mean, spoiler alert: he's one of the prongs of a love triangle between Fred and her and another character we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah, the guy that she came to like almost murder in her mom's house is the prince of mermaids, and he ends up wanting to do her. I don't know why.
He gave me, like, in my head, I imagine him in a very Jason Momoa type of thing, because he's supposed to have, like, long, flowing hair, and he's super tall and all this kind of stuff. He doesn't
look anything like Jason Momoa. He's supposed to be tall, thin, like, red-haired with, like, a close clutch.
I'm putting specific people in my fantasies. You can't tell me what.
Well, I can, because the description is totally antithetical to Jason Momoa's physical description.
I just kind of read long, dark-haired mermaid person, and I was like, well, Jason Momoa's an Aquaman. I'll just do that.
That's not what it says at all. The guy has shorter, like, long-ish red hair, but not long, like, kind of just, I don't know, medium length red hair, and he's supposed to be thin and white.
Let me have my fantasies.
Yeah, okay. I'll let you think about fucking Jason Momoa.
Well, you know what? I don't feel bad about revealing this early in the podcast, but that shit doesn't even happen in this book.
Yeah, there's no mermaid sex.
There's no mermaid intercourse, and not that I'm necessarily out here looking for that, but if I'm buying a book called Sleeping with the Fishes that features mermaid protagonists and, like, wild, sexy antics, like, what, you're not going to give me that? You're not going to give me a little bit of that anywhere?
No,
like,
they make
out a little bit.
I agree. It makes no sense. Like, why would you market a paranormal romance book without any paranormal romance in it?
I mean, there's fucking in here, but it's between people. Like, it's like between people characters.
Yeah, people characters that you wouldn't expect to. Anyway, it makes no fucking sense. I think maybe what she was trying to do is just to, like, build it up, because this is part of a trilogy. Thank you, brain.
Okay. Yes.
So there's 3 books in this Fred the Mermaid series. So maybe she was saving the mermaid and fish sex for other books. I don't know.
But I don't like that, because, I'm buying a certain kind of book. I expect a certain thing in it. If I'm buying some high fantasy novels, there better be a sword fight in there at some point.
Right.
or something of this nature. If I'm buying a book called Sleeping with the Fishes featuring a lady mermaid, like, I better get some weird mermaid stuff happening. Like,
yeah, I think that really she just couldn't figure out how that worked, because wouldn't it just be like
just save it for later, just like, I'll figure it out next time.
No, but like, think about it, there wouldn't be any intercourse if their lower half of their bodies are fish. Then they would just lay a clutch of eggs and then the male would come and fertilize it. Like, there's no intercourse.
Maybe mermaid sex is just mad boring. Like,
yeah, it would be a lot of making out, egg laying, and then semen being squirted over the eggs, and that's it. Like, that's what it would be.
I'm sure a good writer could make that hot enough if they were that good somehow.
No.
It's not this lady,
I think the real answer to why is there no mermaid sex is that she was like, oh yeah, that would be not a thing. There's no such thing.
But they can still turn into humans, right? With the appropriate human bits.
Oh, you're right. I guess they could have sex as humans on land, but they wouldn't have mermaid
but then again,
sex.
that's also never clarified if the human bits are the same or not. Like, they don't really go into that at all. I'm assuming yes.
Yeah, I think they are. And I also, that's the other reason why a mermaid who can turn into a person and vice versa makes no sense, because, like, your inner organs would also have to transform constantly, which is insane.
You know, you just turn that liver into a fish lung by...
right, yeah.
For reasons.
Yeah, and that vagina and uterus just gets, I don't know, fucking swallowed up by your abdomen, I guess.
It just kind of closes up on its... Like, it's still there, because it can still bear young or whatever, but it's just kind of closed up. It's hard to access, you know?
Oh, Jesus. Anyway...
Enough talking about mechanics of fish fucking.
Yeah, I mean, and like, I'm not an expert. I'm not a marine biologist, but I know.
Oh, you're not a fish fuck expert? I didn't know you didn't have a degree in fish fuck. We might not be qualified to describe.
No,
and talk about this book.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm not a marine biologist. I don't have a degree in marine science, but I do know many people who are both of those things. So it's kind of, yeah. I think it's fine.
Can I meet your fish sex expert friend?
Yeah.
Who's that friend? Oh, I can. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because maybe we can ask them questions about this and see if they can come up with a plausible way for the mermaids to...
You know what? I should ask. I do know somebody who is... has worked
walk up to your friend. Please walk up to your friend and just deadpan ask them, like, how do you think mermaids would fuck? Like,
no, I think I will.
Okay,
anyway, I'm too bad I didn't do it before we recorded this. But
yeah.
Let's get back to the plot. So.
Oh yeah, Thomas, Pearson, and Madison is what we were on.
Right. So Madison is a ditzy intern. Thomas is a visiting researcher. And he's working on the heightened toxicity levels in Boston Harbor that Fred has also noticed, or hasn't noticed. I'm sorry. The Mer Prince has also noticed increased toxicity levels in Boston Harbor, even though he's from the Black Sea, which is on the other fucking side of the world.
I believe there's even like miles of land in between for him to like have to, like, I guess he can swim through a river into the ocean or something like that too. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe he has some like hyper sea toxin sensing ability as well.
He said that traveling mer people had told him about it. But it just doesn't, like, the timeline doesn't make sense because, you know, spoiler alert, the toxins in the harbor had been created by a nearby hotel on the waterfront that had only been built, like, relatively recently, I think.
Yeah, super recently.
So it doesn't make sense. Like, if somebody was swimming in Boston Harbor, went all the way to the Black Sea, which, I mean, probably took like a year or something.
I don't know how fast mermaids can swim. Maybe they have like crazy propelling ability. They never really got into that either.
No, because the prince talks about how it took him a long time to get there, because he had to swim all the way from the Black Sea.
Yeah, and I do remember Fred talking about how the hotel was finished super recently. I forget exactly how long, but it didn't make sense to me either.
Yeah, so this book suffers from poor plot development. You know, even if you have a stupid plot, at least come up with a way to make it make sense. This book does not do that. Yeah.
It's like kind of really thin. Like the only thing that happens in the book is like, oh, we found out there's toxins in the river, and then at the very last minute, it all wraps up in a way that doesn't really even solve the problem. Because what's happening is that there's like a sewer pipe that's not properly piped into sewage treatment or something. That's just spilling shit out into the harbor.
Literal shit. They like to emphasize that in the book constantly. Oh my god, it's actual human feces. Like, okay.
I mean,
great.
Aren't we kind of doing that already a little? I mean, I know there's like treatment plants outside of Boston on the harbor and stuff like that I'm assuming most stuff gets pumped to, but like someone somewhere is pooping into the river.
No, I would be very surprised if that was still happening. Everything gets sent to the Deer Island treatment plant and then processed and sent back. Clean.
But like, how do you get that by an inspector? Like,
right. It makes no sense. Like, obviously somebody would be like, looks like there's literally shit coming out of that hotel. I don't know. I guess I'll just walk by this. Like,
or like, you know, I'm assuming the inspector has to come by to make sure the sewer lines are properly connected up. And it's not like you're going to build the sewer lines only to disconnect them after you get the inspection pass.
Yeah,
or something.
And I don't know.
My evil plan to shit in Boston Harbor has finally come to a fore.
Yeah, and I don't even think that would save you that much money, like, to be honest.
Yeah, what is it saving you? Like a couple of meters or maybe like a mile of pipe? Like,
yeah, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. And then it's suggested that the mob guys are like, I don't know, maybe the mob guys who are in cahoots with the hotel owner somehow bribed the I don't know, Boston housing not housing, but like the building commission or something. I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense.
That's also really glossed over because, again, I don't mind talking about this book out of order because there's not much of a plot to it. But here's the whole thing. Basically, Fred's a bitch to everyone. These two guys show up and all of a sudden she feels kind of tingly about them. Some stuff happens. They find out there's shit in the water. They go and find the guy that like authorized it and they kill him, and the end.
Oh, the only things you really forgot are the side plot of Fred's best friend being in love with her boss, and then they fuck, and also
the one sex scene in the book is between those two characters.
Yeah, and also the mermaid prince and this researcher are super hot about Fred, and she takes turns like making out with each of them in various settings, and I also thought that was fucked up, and like she doesn't really seem to like either of them, but she enjoys the attention.
It's another one of those romance novel things where it's like, oh, they have to know that I want them without me telling them. That's really what that's really what she's into throughout this whole thing, is that she does, she acts like she doesn't want them around, but she's totally actually fine with it once they're aggressive about it, and she kind of seems to enjoy it too.
Yeah, which is fucked up in a variety of ways, but we've already addressed that in other podcasts, so I don't think we need to belabor the point.
We don't have to go over it all again, but it is just, again, a common theme in a lot, even like written by women apparently, that just because she's being one way to you doesn't mean she actually doesn't want it. A real man would be aggressive and pursue her to like overcome, or at least he just knows that, or something like that. I don't know what the logic is, man.
Yeah, it's dumb. And the only reason either guy likes her is because she's a mermaid, so...
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily seem to be about her personality.
Nope.
Like, the researcher guy can see her hair color or something, which is apparently, like, most people can't see her real hair color, but this guy can.
Yeah, her hair is...
Once again, just reasons.
Yeah, her hair is naturally green, but everyone thinks it's blue, except for her best friend and the man who loves her. And it's like, okay, this is really stupid. Yeah,
again, there's no real reason for that to be the case. Like, they never explain, like, oh, because you just like her that much, or, like, you're compatible for each other. And, like, it's not even that. It's just like, oh, these people can see it because I don't know, it serves for some kind of dramatic irony.
No, I don't. It's not dramatic irony because she's talking about it in the book. Dramatic irony would be if, like, we knew something.
I'm just reaching for, like, why. Like, it doesn't even matter.
Don't reach, Chris. There's nothing there. There's nothing to reach for.
Okay, sure.
Moving on. Let's talk about how the whole plot culminates in something that makes no sense too. So, like,
they get into a gunfight with the guy who built the hotel and dumped shit into the river because there's mob people there and they have guns or something.
Right, who happens to be... So the guy that built the hotel, he is Fred's boss's ex-husband, and the reason that he built the hotel in the harbor was specifically to get back at her and to ruin the harbor that she loves so much.
Yeah, like...
Yeah, what?
Even for, like, the most petty human being alive, seems like really, really far... to go to, like, spite your ex-wife when it's... I mean, it affects her, I guess, because she does care about the harbor or whatever, but it's like, it's not like you did it to her property, or like... It's really far to go
Yeah.
And it's like even a dumb plan at that, because I guess since it worked and he was able to do it and get the pipe into the water, then yeah, it worked. But in normal human reality, again, like an inspector probably wouldn't let any of that fly without actually seeing it connected first, and then what's the financial sense of it? You're just kind of screwing yourself over, maybe. It makes zero sense.
Yeah, I mean,
my biggest problem, actually, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
But my hugest problem that I have about this is that...
Oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. Sorry.
What?
Continue.
What? No, what did I say?
You said hugest.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Anyway.
I'm not a good word guy. Anyway, my problem with the way it's resolved is that, okay, they go in there, they get in a gunfight, the dude gets killed. I forget how. Some gun shoots him from someone's hand. Whatever. But he dies, and that's it. It's not like they go and then report it to the city that this is happening.
No, I'll explain what happens. So what actually happens is they like just walk into the building, and they're like, we have a message from blah blah blah's ex-wife, and the secretary's like, oh, certainly, I'll let you right up. Like, what? And so they go up there and they crash a meeting with the mob that this guy, I can't even remember this guy's name. Like, I honestly can't.
It was just very generic, and he was literally in the book for like 30 pages tops.
What?
He was literally in the book for like 30 pages tops.
Yeah, and by page, again, we're being generous. This is a large print, lots of space between lines and big margins kind of book. It's really just like a glorified short story that could probably only fill a handful of Word document pages. But anyway, so they crash this meeting, and the mob guys just leave, which is weird.
Yeah, that's kind of hilarious. They're like, we're not dealing with this. You can go fucking go.
Yeah, because they describe all the men sitting at the table as though they have a bulge in their armpits, and I was like, what the fuck does that mean? But apparently
it's the holster.
Yeah,
that's under the coat.
I just didn't think that made sense. Like, what?
There's undershirt holsters like that are like really high up like that. You know.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know there are, but it was just a strange way to describe people.
Trying to make them sound like aggressive gangsters that don't even stick around to do the function that they would have.
Yeah, I was like,
in a scene in a book.
Yeah, I was like,
don't put the gangsters there if you're not going to use them. Like, there's no reason for them to be in the room. Like,
right, and that was the thing that made no sense. So they spend this sentence or two describing how tough and armed these gangsters are, and then they just leave.
That's great.
Like, see you later. So anyway, the Fred and the Prince and the researcher storm in, and the mob guys leave, and they have this awkward confrontation with this guy, and the guy pulls a gun on them, and everyone hides, and then the prince like breaks his neck, and then they all leave, and yeah, like Chris said, they just don't report it to the police or tell anyone, and they're like, well, I guess this is fine. Like, what?
Yeah, it's like 10 pages later, the book ends kind of abruptly, and it's not like, okay, so you killed him, but maybe he was the only guy that had any knowledge of how to like put what where to fix it. Like, it's not like because everyone's boss died that they have to fix the boss's mistake. They could just install someone else. That I'm assuming there's a board that constructed this hotel. It wasn't just him.
Yeah.
So, someone somewhere is going to take his position of power, and who's to say they won't just continue doing this? Or
right, it doesn't.
How would they even know it was happening? There's no actual resolution besides the guy that did it, that was a mean jerk, died. So I guess that's enough.
Yeah, and like a hotel like that would have security cameras, and obviously the secretary let them up there so she would know exactly what these people looked like, who were in the room when this guy was murdered. Out.
They're just like, it's just done, and like they discovered, like they don't even talk about discovering the body or anything. It's just assumed that they got away with it.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I forgot what else. Oh yeah, sorry. I also wanted to mention, I think that maybe you forgot about this too, but Thomas Pearson, the researcher, so he's a floating researcher and also a romance novelist under a female pen name.
Yeah, sure,
so he's massively wealthy.
Because
yeah, sure.
It's also like a really irrelevant thing to add that I don't like. Why bother? Couldn't he just be a scientist? There's no reason. Like, why?
I think the author just wanted to, like, jerk herself off and be like, yeah, writing romance novels under a pen name fucking pays the bills. Like, okay, we get it. Shut up now.
That's a really weird thing to want to jerk yourself off about.
Well, she does, because at the beginning of the book, in her thanks section, she's like, oh, from my husband who did tons of research for this project and who loves that I make more money than he does.
Yeah, come on, lady.
Whoa, lady.
Do you really have to, like, add that jab in there?
Yeah, chill the fuck out. We get it.
Fuck, he's helping you and doing his research and stuff, and you have to just kind of cut him down a little bit.
Oh, yeah. And I
wish
think that's
you were a mermaid, buddy.
Yeah, I think that's the whole reason that she put that part in the book. I mean, that's just conjecture, but, you know.
Yeah, but it's just, again, these really weird additional details. Maybe it comes up later in the series that, like, oh, his romance novel history gives him primo fucking abilities because he knows how to write it, he knows how to do it. I don't
know.
Maybe that's the implication or something. Like, oh, if he can write them good, he can do them good.
I think so. Let's go back to talking about the weirdness of Fred's best friend, Jonas.
Jonas, I have a lot to say about Jonas. I have a lot to say about this character because they have this sort of rapport between each other that they're both catty shitty at each other, and they just kind of make fun. Like, he calls her a bitch all the time, but she, like, laughs about it, and it's endearing, which is fine, whatever. Yeah, some friends have that banter or whatever, but it just seems like they're mean to each other all the time.
Yeah, it's weird, and I don't really understand. I mean, I guess the reason that she painted the character this way was to be like, hey, don't be judgmental and assume things about people, but it was just really weird. I don't know why she needed to do that. Chris, do you want to explain what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so this character is kind of there is some sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like, okay, he's just very flamboyant, or he comes off as flamboyant, kind of, not in like a lispy speech way, but like he likes scented candles and fashion and patterns, and he likes to shop for people and do makeovers for them. But he's straight. Oh, wow, that's so different.
Yeah,
like,
so they basically, like, the author paints this character with a stereotypical gay brush. Like, that's what she does. She just gives him a nice big coat of, hey, you know all this stuff that stereotypical gay dudes like? Yeah, this character's gonna be all about that, but he's straight. So, like, I think it's actually kind of a shitty disservice to people who are gay, because it's like yet another character who is stereotypical and not a real fleshed out person.
Yeah, it's like a really cheap way, I think, to get out of, like, the criticism you might get for having that kind of a character in there.
Yeah.
Like, just having the gay guy that, oh, he's really into shopping and makeovers, then, oh, but he's straight, so it's fine. You know, I'm being creative and subversive, when really, no.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really have much to his character besides that. Like, oh, he does the stereotypical gay dude stuff, but he ain't. That's it. He actually he's into Fred's boss because he's actually straight. And there's a confusing dating scene where, oh, she goes out with him because she thinks he's trying to help her get laid from straight dudes, but she thinks he's gay. But, oh, he's really actually dressing her up nice for himself. Kind of. It's not creepy, I would say, but, like,
I think it's creepy, because if somebody took me out on the pretext of, like, oh, this is just a friends thing, and then was looking at me.
He doesn't take her out on that. No, he assumes it's a date. It's her that's making the assumption that it's not.
I don't know.
Right? Like, he doesn't say anything to the effect that it's not that. He's very excited when they're about to go out because he's assuming that. And it's basically the Dr. Barb, Fred's boss, who assumes he's gay and assumes it's platonic. If I was in that situation and, like, I was assuming a lady knew I was straight for whatever reason, but I offered to take her out to do that, I would assume it's kind of a date thing, because if you accepted that from a straight dude, then there's that sort of implication, I suppose. But it's a weird situation all around in that whose fault is it? I don't think it's anyone's fault, really. I mean,
I just think that they're supposed to be two adults, and I feel like it would play out differently in the real world.
But, like, I don't ask people, oh, are you actually gay? I assumed, like, there's actual people in my life that, like, I think might be, but I just don't ask because it's none of my business.
Oh, no, of course. But I just think it's weird that Jonas seems to be totally unaware of the fact that people think that. And I feel like you would be pretty self-aware, because people would probably have called you gay your whole life. Because people are horrible.
He does mention like getting picked. Like that's how Fred and he met. Is like he was getting picked on by people, and Fred just kind of saved his ass one time.
Right.
So he's probably self-aware of that. And you're right that he should probably then extend that to like, oh, most ladies who accept my offer for a makeover might think that I'm gay because of this.
Right.
You're totally 100% right about that. But in the end, like it really is on the person assuming. I would say. That's a weird question, I guess. Like, who is there really anyone? It's just a misunderstanding, really.
I mean, in my mind, it's not a misunderstanding. I think that, in the book, because these characters are poorly written, sure, it's a misunderstanding. But I think in real life, if you know that most people assume, like, oh, you're gay, it's like he's kind of taking advantage of the situation. I think again, if this were real people and not these horrible fake people.
You're probably right about that. I'm assuming someone somewhere this situation has played out in some fashion.
I don't know. It's dumb. Let's stop talking about this. It's dumb.
It really is dumb all around. But again, this is like the only actual quote unquote romance. I mean, there's the making out between Fred and the two other guys, but this is the only relationship that ends in any like. In anything, even if it's just a quick fuck scene, like really late in the book, that didn't have to be there. It was just like I think Jonas like had something that Fred needed, and like the fact that he was at their apartment to do her boss was just coincidental.
No. What happened was they finally, I think through Fred's intervention, the doctor and Jonas finally came together because they both happened to be at work with Fred, and they finally were like, oh man, we're both so dumb, we didn't realize we liked each other, like we didn't realize, and then they're like, all right, let's go do it. And so they take the keys to Thomas Pearson's rented fancy hotel suite at the Marriott, I think. And they
real generous of everyone to just be like, yeah, you can use my hotel room to fuck.
And so they go back
real
there.
Real buddies right there. Those are real pals, I have to say.
So they go back there and have sex, and it's mercifully a short sex scene.
It's like 10 pages of this very largely printed, fonted book, So
I will say, it was so bad. Like, on one page, the author describes rumbling balls twice.
Those old ball rumbles.
Look, man,
you gotta watch out for them. So, like,
I'm not a guy, but I have many male friends in my life. I have a boyfriend, and I asked a couple people. I was like, "Hey, would you ever describe your balls as rumbling?" And they all looked at me like I was nuts, and they were like, "No, what the fuck?"
Did you give them the context? Did you because the context is the ball rumbling, I believe, happens shortly before orgasm. Is sort of it's the moment where you're like, oh shit, it's gonna happen, which is a thing that dudes do, like, about 5 to 10 seconds before it happens, oh shit, it's about to happen.
Well, it happens the same way for women, but let me tell you, there's no rumbling in either case.
Yeah, I would never describe it as a rumbling. It's just a specific kind of muscle tension.
Yeah, right. Like
I don't feel any like ball quakes or They start knocking around at each other. Like, if you're not careful, they'll fucking... It's like those
it's momentum
things that you see on people's desks.
Oh, yeah. The ball quake, I like that.
Yeah. It's just... It's one of those, like... It's not a particularly well-written or exciting sex scene. Like, I don't know if you've ever actually read anything in text form that has gotten you going or not.
No.
Okay, that doesn't work for you ever?
No.
Okay, well, I mean, there's things that I have read that have worked for me, let's say. And
oh God, I just didn't need to hear that. Sorry, listeners.
I'm trying to get out where we're coming from here.
Oh,
our opinions on sex scenes. Normally, I hate sex scenes in books because
they're just
they're useless. Like, I prefer the fade out most of the time of and then they went to bed the next morning. That's good enough for me most of the time.
I think that's the best way to convey that is to be like, well, they held hands and walked into the blackened bedroom and then the door shut. Moving on.
Why is the bedroom blackened? Jeez.
What?
You could leave the light on,
But you know what I mean. It's kind of, like you said, sort of a fade out thing.
I just like that in your mind you always assume the bedroom is dark. Or your default positioning is that it's a dark room?
No, I was literally thinking of like a fade out. You're fading to black.
Oh, okay.
They're walking into the bedroom and it's black.
Okay, so yeah, we're being cinematographers here. I get it. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, this kind of goes to this another question I kind of wanted to ask about this is like, so we've kind of laid out the plot. There's really not much more to this. There's like a couple of points that I want to harp on, but while we're here, so this is a book that this lady wrote. I'm assuming she likes to write these kinds of books because she's written a whole lot of them, or at least she's successful enough to continue to write them. And they are successful. She, in some fashion, she's on the New York Times bestseller list, or has been for one of her other books. And, even though both of us, there's nothing here for us, someone somewhere must be into that. Someone somewhere must want to read about mermaids getting it on or something, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess the simplest way to ask is, it's okay for this book to exist, right? Do you, there's no problem with that? That's the question I kind of want to get down to on a lot of these things on Terrible Book Club is there merit in this thing being out there?
I mean, I'm just going to state a pretty classical notion, but, you can't have good without the bad. So, yeah, I think this thing needs to exist because I think other things need to shine, in comparison to it.
I like that. You need that shadow of terrible books to really appreciate the good books out there.
Well, it's true. I mean, how could you ever rate, how good something is if there isn't something bad? I mean, if everything's good all the time, then...
Oh, I'm not saying everything should be good all the time. I'm saying is it fine that this was a published work? That a company backed it.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, obviously they made some money off of it, and she must enjoy it. So there's some value in it being around, right? Some people must have gotten enjoyment out of it, even if we're ragging on it in here right now in this podcast, which I tend to like to think of Terrible Book Club as more sort of analyzing why something doesn't work and how we can improve it rather than just simply ragging on people for the sake of ragging on them.
I mean, obviously the, well, it's something that we uncovered in doing this podcast is that the subgenre of paranormal romance is incredibly popular. I told you that I have a friend who used to be an intern at a publishing house, and she actually now works at a major publishing house. And I think the major one now, they don't, I don't think they handle stuff like this, but the place that she interned, she had to look up what books were trending and stuff, and I guess this shit is I guess there are just a lot of people whose lives are unfulfilling in a sexual and romantic way, and that's really sad. I wouldn't say that that's the case 100% of the time with people that are into this kind of a thing. I would say absolutely. I can't imagine any other reason for wanting to read these things.
I mean, just because... Well, here's the thing. You can't expect one person to give you everything that you need in life, no matter who it is. It's kind of... I find it kind of unreasonable to expect that there's going to be one person in your life that will provide you all of your needs, without fail. Things are going to slip here.
Sure. I just think that if we get into this conversation, it's going to make the podcast twice as long as it already is, and we're almost at an hour.
I'm not trying to harp on, but it's just my opinion that it's not reasonable to expect someone to give you everything you need in life, because that's pressure on that person, if anything. Not that it's necessarily a thing about, all relationships are based on something you need from another person. I think people should be independent parties regardless. But I don't think it's right to assume that, because someone's into this, that they're sexually frustrated necessarily. Probably, maybe, yeah, sure, probably I'll give you that, but not necessarily in all cases. Maybe this is a weird way to work out someone's body dysmorphia issues about their own human body. They wish they were a mermaid because they're so beautiful and elegant or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe even in a creepy way, the animal transformation stuff is a way to deal with people being attracted to non-human forms in sort of a healthy way, because that's a thing that can happen. Even if you don't want that to happen in your brain, it can be a thing that just triggers you.
No, sure. So I'll say my piece about this. I mean, maybe I just think that the majority of people reading this stuff are looking for some kind of romantic and sexual escape, and that's fine. And if these books help people do that, that's great.
What about if it's just spicing it up, though? What if their partner's also into it and they role play out their, mermaid stuff together?
Yeah, I mean, that's hilarious. I didn't think about that. That's hilarious. I hope there are people fucking in bathtubs with mermaid tails. I hope that they have a great time.
Honestly, I do too. That sounds like if that works for you, then fuck, everyone deserves to do what makes them feel good in the context of two sane, rational adults deciding.
But
all this.
But I'm just going to comment on your other piece, is that you're saying you can't expect one person to be everything for you. I mean, I think that's fine, but I think that can be taken to an unhealthy level. I think that if you're the kind of person that's looking for one monogamous partner, which is most people, I'll out myself, which is me. I have a normal relationship, I guess. I think it is good to not let yourself get into a rut where you're like, oh, this person is my everything, and if I don't have them, I'll die. Like, obviously, you're not going to die. You might be super fucking sad, but like, you as an organism are a separate thing, and while this person does enrich your life, you can't base everything on it. That being said, I do think that if you're in a relationship with someone, they should kind of cover all the necessary bases, Sure, I'm
not saying that they should care about you and respect you and communicate with you and all that things. I'm just saying that sometimes a person that you like for all kinds of reasons just might not have one other thing that you also kind of might want out of someone. And it's your decision, basically, whether to cut that off and just live with what you have, and that's fine. Or maybe there's other avenues to explore it that the other partner is okay with, and maybe that's a book about mermaids fucking.
Right, like
and
maybe...
that's not necessarily an unhealthy or bad thing.
No, maybe you just really want to do a fucking bathtub roleplay session about mermaid sex, and your partner's like, no. So you find Janice Davidson sleeping with the fishes, and it helps alleviate that pain. I get it.
I wouldn't even call it pain. Just
whatever. Whatever you want to call it. But
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I think there's value in this book existing, but I don't think there's any value in its content. I think this book sucks. I think it's poorly written. It's not as funny as everyone that has reviewed it and as the author likes to think it is.
Yeah, here's definitely a part that we were disagreeing for a second there, and now we've come back together in unity on this. That this book is just kind of it's not contributing anything to the overall, even I guess the paranormal romance genre. Not that I read a ton of that, but I've read enough to know that it's not necessarily anything new or fancy or interesting, and it's definitely not as funny, like you said, as the reviewers that are on the front of the book and that have written reviews for this seem to think. I don't know what those people think is funny or uproariously witty, like some might have said.
Yeah, hang on. I gotta just say, fuck you, Chicago Sun-Times, and fuck you, Detroit Free Press.
You are fake news.
You're just right. You're just not. I mean, the Chicago Sun-Times says a darkly comic sensibility. No.
It's not dark. It's just jerky. Everyone's just shitty to each other. It's not dark. It's just asshole.
And the fucking Detroit Free Press says her prose zings from wisecrack to wisecrack. No, it doesn't. This isn't even prose. This is garbage. Fuck you.
I think someone that's just on the book review squad just was I need to just get something out right now. Oh, it was one funny thing. Whatever. I need to get this out here because Again, it does, even though it doesn't contribute anything to the overall sphere of literature or whatever. I guess it's a good, like I said, that it exists to help people out that might be into this fantasy, or just for someone to read, to chill out with.
Well, yeah,
maybe.
or is it going to encourage people to try to have sex with fish? I don't know. I don't fucking hope not.
Hopefully not that. I think that would be a gross misinterpretation of this book. I don't think at any point they advocate that. But
but I don't know.
Oh yeah, there
were some other
most terrible book that we've read.
No, it's definitely not, largely because of its brevity. I'm going to say that right now.
Yeah, it kind of knows when to get out, I would say.
Yeah, it knows
when to pull out just at the right moment.
But I do want to say that we missed a couple of things. I guess I don't want to prolong this, but there's an underlying subplot that the fish in the... I'm just going to call it what it's actually called. In the giant ocean tank at the New England Aquarium are on food strike because no one will play the Pet Shop Boys for them.
Yeah, the fish are fucking so into the Pet Shop Boys that they refuse to eat until they hear that beat.
Yeah, so I'm gonna address a few things. So,
first of all, fish don't even really like the Pet Shop Boys.
Well, first of all, there are decibel restrictions in the New England Aquarium. So
you got that inside knowledge.
I know too many people that work there and volunteer and intern there. So there are decibel restrictions because loud noises can injure a lot of the animals in there. So I don't even think that you can get music up loud enough to really impact the denizens of the giant ocean tank. So that makes no sense.
Do they play music in the aquarium? I haven't been there in a while. I don't think they're playing.
They don't play music. But there are decibel levels for like the talks that go on at the top of the tank, and also for any events that are held in the main building. So if people want to have music at an event, they can only play it. I think up to. I don't know the actual levels. I mean, I'm not like that into the inside knowledge. We have to get
that fact checky around this,
right?
But you're right that it's like it's this weird subplot, just where like, oh yeah, the fish really want to hear the Pet Shop Boys, and I guess that's supposed to be funny or whatever. Like that's supposed to be. But
it's not. It's stupid, and it doesn't make any sense, and it just bothers me that this woman who supposedly did so much research is like peddling all this kind of misinformation almost. I know it's a fantasy book, but
and like who's it really hurting to think that they play music in the aquarium? Like that's not gonna cause some kind of terrible catastrophe to occur where someone goes into the aquarium and plays the Pet Shop Boys real loud. No, I don't know. Now the fish died.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I do think about this stuff like that because then some idiot is going to be like, "Oh man, I'm going to blast this album for my pet fish," and then fucking explode all the fish. Like,
the drop was too strong. He thought his fish were into dubstep, and then a horrible thing happened.
Yeah, like I don't know. And there were some other stuff like she was talking about. How all the fish get the same food, and it's only one kind of fish called smelt, and that's also not true. A lot of the animals get different food based on what they are and where they're from. I mean, a lot of them do get smelt, capelin, and sardines, and I think some other stuff. But like,
do you know if they're hand fed by divers and stuff too? Like
so the fish. A lot of the animals are fed in different ways. So some of them are just kind of like, they'll scatter some food, and a lot of the different fish will just eat in, kind of like how you would feed your fish in a fish tank. But many of them are target trained. And so.
Really? That company trains fish?
Yeah, so you can target train fish. So there are a lot of them.
You missed my joke about a retail company training fish. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Keep going. Anyway, some of the fish are trained that like when they see a red circle, they know to come to eat, and that like another fish will be trained to like see a green rectangle or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm not super up on the exact.
Sure. Yeah, I get what you're talking about. Whenever they see the Target logo, they know savings are ahead.
Oh my gosh! Shut up, Chris. Some of them are. Actually, I don't know about being hand fed. Not in the giant ocean tank. I don't think. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not an expert.
Yeah, we're not going to quibble that.
But
it's definitely not all of them. Just like someone dives in and like. Feeds them all. Also, like she dives into the tank at night when no one's around, just completely naked.
Right, which is not
around.
Which makes no sense because there's a constant security detail at the New England Aquarium, and there are cameras. So, like, why would you do that? That makes no sense.
Someone would see you swimming around with your tits out in the thing. Like,
yeah, the security guard.
Does she not have the mermaid seashell bra? Isn't that like standard issue?
No,
no. Okay, I guess not.
But yeah, I mean, there's security around the clock there and cameras, so I have no idea why you would think that makes sense. And also, I love how she talks about like a secret entrance near the harbor seals out front. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's weird. The book makes it out like the aquarium's abandoned at night because what happens is Dr. Thomas Pearson or whatever actually goes in that night too and sees her in the tank, and that's how he like figures it out, and he becomes so fascinated with her and all this shit. But like no building that like that is just going to be unattended at night,
right?
With a bunch of valuable animals and research things happening.
Yeah,
with no one in there? I don't think so.
Yeah, so a lot of things in this book make no sense, and I also just want to quickly talk about how she tries to make it super Boston, like, this is taking place in Boston, guys.
She was walking down Comm Ave and got off the T, and then she got a Dunkies and, you know, got addicted to opiates outside.
Oh, that's a harsh one, Chris.
Yeah, I'm Boston Burns over here.
But no, she constantly talks about how they eat at the legal seafoods across the street from the aquarium, and that is there. You know, any of you who have...
I mean, you could Google Maps that, come on.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I feel like the, quote, research she did was just looking at Google Maps. Like, that's
yeah,
about
she
the
like
extent
mentions specific Boston streets here and there, and she mentions a T-Pass once, and like, oh, yeah, you do call it a T-Pass over here, so that's like... sort of colloquially correct.
Yeah, there were some other things, but I can't really remember.
There was like a part where someone said "wicked hard" or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Just had to throw one, but it was like once, and then no one ever said it again. Like she just remembered that one time she saw The Departed that night. It was like, oh yeah, they say "wicked" over there. Let's get that.
Yeah, and like there are other things like about how the mer folk have lower body temperatures or something, so they don't feel cold as often. And like the prince and Fred were just walking around in a t-shirt and shorts in 60-degree weather. Oh my god! And I was like, that's not even cold. Like,
yeah, it's not that bad. Even in Boston, I was outside in a t-shirt days ago. I was on jeans at that time, but it was like 60 outside. And I was like, yeah, just a t-shirt. I'm fine.
Yeah, it was weird. I feel like she said it was 60 degrees. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was 50, but even 50 isn't that cold.
It was definitely around 60. I remember that too as being a weird thing that stood out because it's in Boston. It's kind of a thing. It's like it matters what direction you're coming from. Like if it had been hot and it went to 60, people might be bundling up a little bit. But if it was cold and it goes to 60, then I have seen people out in shorts.
Yeah, we recently had a freakish heat wave. We had 2 days where we broke the heat records for those specific dates in Boston. It was 71 or 73.
Yeah, it was a perfect temperature. I loved going outside in those days, but obviously the Earth is in terrible shape and we're going to die. But it was really wonderful those 2 days.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my coworkers about it, how you enjoy the unseasonable warmth for a brief moment, and then you immediately realize it's because the Earth is dying, and then you're just like, fuck.
Well, at least you got something before we're all flooded or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much else to talk about this book. The only other points I kind of wanted to go over quickly was that the treatment of the intern character, Madison, I did not like very much. Like, she's supposed to come off as like, oh, she's rich and like ditzy and like what a terrible person. But honestly, Fred is just mean to her for no reason other than the fact that she's younger and talks different, because she's a sociable person. It seems she's trying to make friends with people and she's trying to find something to do.
Yeah,
and she seems at least a little bit legitimately interested, even if she's like doesn't necessarily know everything. That's fine. Everyone has to start and learn some way. You can still correct her, but not in such a shitty way. Like she's trying to be. She's approaching people and talking to them and trying to get to know them, which is it's a rare thing I see happen. So when I see people doing it, I'm actually like, oh, you're kind of a cool person. I enjoy that you're doing that. So to read about her getting treated shitty just for like being open and sociable I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I did feel like there were a couple of things wrong with the Madison character. One, interns don't intern in like at the gift shop and feeding fish. Like that's not how that works. You intern for a specific area. Like I said, interns would never be wearing heels and a lab coat, but I think on a personal level, it was kind of shitty that Fred was like, oh, you're a rich blonde girl that talks like this, so I'm immediately going to be mean to you. And it's like, well, don't fucking judge people.
Yeah, she seems like a nice enough person. And like I said, especially as someone that's been trying very, very, very hard to develop his social skills and only just now kind of getting good at like approaching people out of the blue or cold and saying hello and all this kind of thing. It makes me really appreciate the type of person that is also very friendly back to me, because that's kind of a rare thing. A lot of people, when I approach them, they're like indifferent, which is fine. I don't expect people to automatically like me or love me, but when someone makes an effort to be friendly at me, I respect that and I really appreciate it, is all I'm saying. And it just made me feel bad about the fact that Fred just immediately went to shitty, and that it's really painted as like the correct way to treat Madison, I think.
Yeah, it did seem kind of shitty that and again, like the characters in this book, I mean, the main character is just kind of a jerk to everybody, and yeah, none of them really speak kindly to one another. Even though the two guys are supposed to like her, they're both kind of weird and aggressive and mean, and like she's mean back to them all the time. Like I said, this book was it seems like it was written by someone who never listened to people actually interact or have a conversation. So
yeah, there's a whole lot of just weirdly unhealthy ways to think that, oh, it's so cute and cool that this is how our relationship works or how our friendship works or something. I just disagreed entirely with like the perspective that they were such good friends and treating each other nicely. When I understand some friends have like they rib each other a lot and that's just how they talk to each other and they understand it's coming from a place of love or care even, but it didn't really. A lot of the things are just offhand. Like Jonas just calls Fred a bitch one time.
Yeah, it was not in an endearing way. Sorry, I just found something else that I wanted to say because I was just flipping through the book.
We're probably wrapping this up soon anyway, so let's just get all the squeeze all the rest out here.
So the the two guys that are, fighting over Fred, you have Thomas Pearson, the researcher, and I forgot Arthur.
Arthur without the H,
Arthur. I'm just gonna call him Arthur. Arthur the prince are fighting over Fred all the time, and there's this one part where Thomas is talking about how obsessed he is with Fred, which is also creepy as hell. Like, these couple of passages are scary. And at the end of it, he goes, and if a certain big red lug got in his way, well, he had a few ideas about how to stop a member of the undersea folk, and not just with Aikido. And I was like, Aikido? Really? I'm so scared.
That he trains in martial arts, but that's a very like Mac from It's Always Sunny way to think about that problem, right? Like, just like, I'll just do some fucking karate moves on him, and then he's done, and I'm totally in with Fred. Like,
yeah,
she just has to see my sick karate moves.
Yeah, like Aikido. Really? Oh God, it's just
it's a wicked douchey way to think about your male competition.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. If you practice Aikido, that's fine. But like to think about it in like I'm gonna kill someone with my Aikido skills. Like, all right, yeah, okay.
And then she'll have to fuck me.
Yeah, right. There's just so much in this book that is bad.
It's definitely. That's kind of why I asked that question before, because like to us, it's definitely a terrible book. But I guess for some people, it's a fantasy that it works for them.
Oh no! I found the Rumbling Balls page.
Are we going to get treated to a reading of this?
Oh yeah, you know it.
Oh good. All right, cool. All right. Well, I'll just say goodbye to my dick forever while you read this.
Yeah, my vagina's gonna close up shop forever. So the characters are having sex. That's the context. Jonas.
Okay.
Jonas and
Thanks
Barb.
for clearing that up.
Jonas and Dr. Barb are having sex, and sorry,
I don't know. Come on, let's wrap it up with this. Just hit me with it already.
All right. Oh, I can't. I don't know if I can do it. Okay, deep breath.
Come on,
breath.
man. Yeah.
He felt the familiar rumbling in his balls that meant the festivities would soon be over. He hadn't gotten off so quickly with a woman since college.
The festivity, a really dorky way to refer to that.
Yeah.
Speaking as someone that has referred to fucking in very dorky ways to women that I am about to fuck, but like even that's just a little bit too on the nose, dude. Like,
sorry. And then the next mention, literally, one sentence later. I'm not gonna read that sentence though because it's a little graphic.
Okay, yeah, let's.
His fingers whitened on her hips as he felt the rumbling start in his balls and race through his body until he thought the top of his head was going to come off.
Just like one of those cartoons where like the steam comes out and shit. That's what that rumbling is. It's all the pressure from the steam inside building inside his testicles.
And then, I'm sorry, this is something else I forgot about.
Yeah, let's just, let's get them all out right now.
The room actually tilted one way and then the other as he desperately tried to focus as Barb collapsed over him with a groan as the greatest orgasm of his life tore through him like those things Fred talked about. Don't think about Fred, idiot. Tsunami. Like a tsunami. That was it. Oh my, Barb gasped in his ear. You're my tsunami.
I forgot about that. Holy shit.
I know, I did too.
Oh, fuck.
Oh Oh, God. All right, guys, just to recap.
All right.
You're my
everyone.
Tsunami.
Thanks. You know what? That's it, right? Here's where we close it out. Thank you for listening to Terrible Book Club, everyone. You're our tsunamis of the fans and comments and love we get from you. So be sure to wash over us with your comments and concerns about all this garbage. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, and sorry I sound so weird. I've had a cold and I lost my voice, so yeah.
We're still kind of experimenting with our audio situation too, because I'm still applying different kinds of processing as I go on. I didn't get a chance to use my brand new mic that I bought for this one. I'm still on my old one.
That sucks.
Because I had to get a part from the company that sent it to me. Like, it was just missing in the box, so I have to wait for that to come in, which kind of sucks. So maybe hopefully next time, I'll be using a fancier kind of microphone. So obviously might sound better. We'll see.
Yeah.
But for now, just same old thing. But I don't know, Paris. After getting hit by that wave, I think that's all I have to say about this.
Yeah.
Whatever this is.
Me too. So, thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next month.
All right. Have a good time, everybody.
Yeah.
Watch out for those tsunamis.
Yeah, watch out. Bye.
Bye.